Good evening. You interrupted a very good conversation back there.
Well, thank you for being with us here tonight. There are 7 questions, and I'll start with the first one, and then it'll kind of go down the line. But please tell us why you are interested in joining the Rochester School Board at this time, and what skills, experiences, or qualities make you a good fit for this position.
Well, I moved to Rochester School District in the late 90s. I had 2 kids back then, and primarily my move here was for the education. School had a really good reputation. Since then, I had 3 others, and we put 4 through the Rochester schools, and the 5th one graduates this spring. So I've really believed in this school system, really liked it. I have been a coach since the 80s in high schools and started coaching here in 2001 in this area. And I've coached at all levels, Division I and Division II football and lacrosse at area high schools, including Rochester Adams and Rochester Stony Creek, Rochester Hills Stony Creek. I have been a substitute teacher. I've been quite involved as a parent, and now I have 3 grandkids, 1 born a month ago. I'll show pictures to anybody who wants to see it in the lobby afterwards. I've started several businesses, worked as a consultant in marketing, usually in strategic development in the area. So I loved the schools. My wife also graduated from Rochester schools and did well in her class. Go Falcons. She did well in her career, so we really liked it. I also fell in love with the culture here. I'm from the East Side. It's beautiful, so that part's easy, but the culture I really loved. So I got very involved. The work that I did and the coaching that I did, I was known for somebody who worked with big collaborative bodies, and as a director or as a head coach, you had to take very strong-willed people, bring them together so that you're all pulling on the same oar, but they had to all be listened to, especially in Division I men's football. Let's just say there's egos involved, and everybody has to feel like they're heard, but some decision has to be made, and you can't have some people pulling away, some people not pulling away. So these are collaborative structures that I was a part of and did extremely well. Won championships, I won awards doing it. And it wasn't because my insight into those particular things, it's brilliant. It was how you brought people together, made sure they were heard, and made them feel like they were all working towards certain goals, that they had to put some of their needs aside, but they also had a buy-in with the programs they were part of, be that coaching or business. The reason why I wanted to get involved at this point was several years ago, I really didn't pay too much attention to the school board because I thought the schools were doing quite well. Obviously, I graduated 5 kids through the school system. But I started noticing what I thought was questions of integrity on decisions coming out of the administration. And then I was looking at the board, whose job really is to supervise and support the administration. And there was all kinds of questionable decisions coming out of that. And it wasn't so much the question of the integrity. There's always contention on any kind of a board. But the perception from people that I knew, I'm somebody who's known as not, let's just say, not being shy. I like people, I like talking to them, I like talking to parents more than most coaches. I got to know the administrators of the buildings, the principals. I got to know the teachers. I got to know the parapros. I got to know the facilities people, and those are important people to get to know. And I started hearing more and more from them, their lack of trust. Now, whether that was justified or not, it's a problem when the perception is there. Because then everything you try to do is misunderstood, or there's a big pull against it. And I saw that happening more and more. And in the last 6 months, some of the things that I've seen going on, I haven't known exactly what it was, but I've started to ask questions and dig in. And I thought there's something that needs to be done to bring the board so that we don't have the factions that are tearing at each other and everybody feels heard. It's a majority board, but it's a collaborative body, which means everybody does need to be heard. That's why I decided to run for board.
Rochester Schools is considered by many to be one of the best districts in the state. However, some say we're a district in decline. What is your view? Is RCS a premier school district, a district in decline, or would you use some other description? And on what do you base that opinion?
I'll base the opinion mostly on the people who are still involved. I stopped coaching about 4 years ago and what their views are. I think it's fantastic. I love the school. I love the school system. That's why I don't like to see any kind of dysfunction within it. Now, I know we're 44th of 50 in the country, but my kids go to school in Rochester schools, and I moved here because these are incredible schools. So I'm stepping up, not because I want to blow my summer or have to sit where you guys are. You guys know the work that's involved in this, and it's just great for the pay that you're getting. But there's times when it's time to step up, and I feel that I have those qualities to get rid of the contention in here and bring our supervisor the support and the supervision that I don't see happening because of all the pulling and the tensions that are going on. How can he do his job, and how can we measure the job that he's doing if we're not supervising him properly and we're caught up in all the fire that's going on? I appreciate that people have the passions that they have, but we have rules, and these boards are run by rules. The revised school code, we have a state and a federal constitution that trump all rules and guarantees things like the freedom of expression, but we have things like the revised school code, which tells us how public schools must run in Michigan. It's not arbitrary. We have to align ourselves to that, no matter our positions. We have the Open Meetings Act, which directs how public boards must conduct their business. It is not arbitrary. No matter how passionate we feel, we have to conduct ourselves by this. And then there's Robert's Rules, which provides structures and processes for running meetings. I'm seeing these cast aside. I understand some of the reasons for the complaints and some of the reasons for the lawsuits. Now, I'm not for or against any of them. A majority rule rules. But on any collaborative board, like if you look at a Supreme Court or any kind of a court, there's dissenting opinions, and it's important that we listen to them. They hone our views. And more than anything else, each one of you was elected for the way you view things. When I'm on the board, I don't care if you and I are diametrically opposed. You represent part of this community. You must be listened to. And if more of us vote one way than the other, it's important that people hear the dissenting opinion, but the majority rules. And after that decision has happened, we get to see and take a really good look at, did it work, did it not work? Can we look at what we've done and not let our egos get in the way and say, this was pretty good, we need to make adjustments, or you know what, they were right, we have to stop. It's not about the polarity of our opinion. This is supposed to be about the kids, and we have to put our sides and our views second to that, and I haven't seen that going on. That happens in groups of people. I understand the contention, but it needs to be brought down, and that's something that I've always done a very good job at doing.
Thank you. What are the top 2 or 3 challenges that Rochester Schools is facing, and what ideas do you have to address those challenges?
I would say the number one that I'm looking to address is the view of the integrity of the school board. There are 2 things that need to be addressed. I don't have an answer because I haven't looked into it deeply enough, and I don't want to go just from the screaming and yelling that I hear online, especially when it's anonymous. But there's 2 problems. One is, what is the problem with the integrity? And I don't know the answer to that. But why is there such a perceived problem with integrity? Like I said, I speak all the time. I had a working relationship, and some of them are just friends. One of them is my neighbor. Those who run the school buildings, the administrators who run the school buildings, the principals, and the teachers, and really listening to the parapros, they're afraid to speak up now. Now, it doesn't matter whether that's justified or not. The fact that they have that shouldn't be there, and it makes his job almost impossible to do. That has to be changed. If we have to change the board, we had a decision back there. There were 7 of us, there's 7 of you. We thought we would just swap seats and we'll all just swatch out. So there's food and drinks available for all of you back there, and we're just gonna take over. But to look at what those perceptions are, when I talk to these people and they tell me they're afraid to speak up and they don't feel like things are being monitored, that's a problem. We're not talking to each other anymore. I saw Mr. Russo a couple of weeks ago. There was, I don't need to go into the problem was, but there was a problem I heard from the seniors and juniors who I know. I'm close to the kids that I coached, and they're getting ready to graduate. So I made sure that they vote this year. But they had a question of something that I had followed a little bit online, and I'd seen the communications that had come from the school, and it wasn't clear, something wasn't clear to me. So I did the craziest thing that people usually don't do. I walked up to Mr. Russo and I shook his hand and I asked him the question. And I'll be damned if he didn't give me the answer, which would be the answer that I would have given. And I couldn't believe that I hadn't heard that through all the communications and the noise. And I thought, are we supporting him enough? Mr. Russo may be the best superintendent we've ever had. How would we know if we don't support him properly? Because we are supposed to be the ones who supervise and give him his goals. And then we also manage him and police him. He may be the worst superintendent ever. How are we gonna know that if we didn't support you and actually give him a chance? This was your first superintendent position? He's done great with a learning curve. He needs the support, and until we put all this other stuff aside, and this becomes our battle, and the perceptions change, we're not gonna know if our superintendent is doing his job. He speaks with one voice, the board does not. The board votes and they have decisions, but it's important for us to hear the minority and the majority opinions.
After review and discussion of the issues, the board operates by a majority vote of trustees. When the majority vote is different from your position, how would you handle that?
I got people for that. I always say, let's just arm wrestle and get it out of the way. Same way I think I kind of expressed it, I can save a little bit of time on this. If you and I have differing opinions, it's my job to discuss it with you and win over your advice. And if not, I can express my opinion, but once the vote is made, that's how this works. If I take the position, that's how this works. And I don't undermine it, I try to support it. Now, if your position is shown to really work, I give my mea culpas. Hopefully I helped inform you a little bit on your decision, and I get on board. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Something wrong with being obstinate and not admitting it. But if I end up being right, it's also not, it's not a time to dance on your grave. When this starts to get personal, we have a problem. This is about the kids. They don't care at all about the board and the decisions, but we know that these decisions you make filter down, and they have an effect on them. We are just a school board. We do not have our finger on the nuclear codes. It's a school board. It's important, but the egos and the views of everybody have to be put in line. If I got outvoted, I got outvoted. If it doesn't work, I should get behind it. If I feel strongly about it, I need to get more support. I need more people on the board with my view. And if the community wants that, then that's what we should do, because if we sneak it in or we cheat or I lie about what I'm doing and then I turn my decision over afterwards, the community in the end is not gonna support it. And right now, they're questioning the integrity of this board. That can't happen. When they're right or they're wrong, that can't be the case, and it needs to be addressed.
Thanks again for coming out.
Thanks, Bob.
RCS serves a diverse group of students. What should the board do to ensure that every student, regardless of ability, background, identity, or characteristics, not only receives a top-notch education, but also feels a sense of belonging in this district?
Excellent question. Thank you. Trustee Arness. That wasn't your question? Okay, no. I wanted to give congratulations to whoever came up with the question. I don't think it's a huge issue in the schools. I was coaching teams where I had a varsity team, no, it was a JV team at Stony Creek where I had 2 girls on the team. It changes the makeup of it, but it adds to the flavor. Everybody can't have their own flag, and everybody has to listen to everything they say. This is a community. People move here because there's a culture here, but they bring something of their own to it. So to just say, come here, do anything you want, and everybody has to get out of your way, you can't do that, especially with thousands of students. So there has to be some core values that we have that they all aspire to, and they do. Kids have got this down pretty well here. That's why people come to Rochester schools. So did I. So we give them something that's, this is communal, this is who we are. Go to Adams, go Highlanders, go to Stony, go Cougars, go to Rochester, go Falcons. They have their different identities, but they all pull together when it comes to Rochester schools. There's a distinction, and I hate the way it's been rephrased. Everybody talks about diversity, and many times it's not diversity, it's division. And I don't care if you put a different shirt on it. And there's a big difference in it. I'll give you an example. I was talking earlier with you about my son being in Rochester Hills Stony Creek Orchestra, which is amazing. When you get there at the beginning and they're all warming up, they're playing their different sounds, it's a cacophony of noise that some people find it to be pleasant. It's just crazy. They're all playing their different sounds and running over each other. But when they start to play a symphony, they're all playing different things, but it works together, it's harmonious. And the distinction between something being divisive or something being diverse would be that. Divisiveness is never harmonious. But you want to hear the different instruments. And that's what we want people to bring in. So regardless of their heritage, regardless of their gender, regardless of any differences, it's how do you come in and be appreciated as a student here? And we have to give them an identity that they all share together and then support their expression of it. And I gotta tell you, from what I've seen the years working in the school, I don't see that as a big problem. All humans, all kids are learning how to get along with each other. That'll never go away. But we can't teach them that, especially if we don't get along with somebody other than us. We're teaching division, not diversity. And I don't care what the program's called. If it's not harmonious, it's division. And if it is, you have true diversity. And I've seen all types in this school district. And I've seen beautiful diversity. It's not a horrible problem. I don't want to create a problem where it doesn't exist. But I like that it's being addressed.
Thank you for coming out tonight. My question, RCS is a public school, and what does the phrase support of public education mean to you? And what do you think a board trustee should or should not do to support public education?
I didn't hear the first part of the quote.
RCS is a public school district. What does the phrase support public education mean to you? What do you think a board trustee should or should not do to support public education?
I think the best thing you can do is have 5 kids and put them through the school system. So I think I may win at that one. What a trustee does to support it, well, you're setting the curriculum. I think, first of all, what you think is your best interest and listening to the parents. What do the parents want for their kids? And each one of you's on here because somebody voted for you. So everybody else on this board should be listening to you. It should be done in an open way. The transparency is a problem. There's a difference between keeping things personal or private and in secret. And as I said before, with the revised school code and the Open Meetings Act, there's rules for what's allowed. You're not gonna talk about every last thing. I coached football. There were so many parents whose kids put a lot of work in and they're all starting quarterbacks. And you have to tell some of them it's just not for them. In the meetings you have to discuss this, you don't tell every last detail to somebody who doesn't want to hear it. So there's a certain amount that you guys meet that's, let's just call it private, right? But it's not secret. They have to feel like they have a voice and that they're hearing you. We can't do things that are even perceived as we're trying to get around a corner and sneak something by them because we think it's best. These parents came here, they paid taxes, they moved here, just like you, just like me. We are accountable in the end to them. If they have questions, we have to answer their questions. If they don't like it, run for the board. But we do have to answer them. We have to be responsive to them. I think that's probably the best way to say reporting, being supportive of public education.
And you're at the 20-minute mark. Perfect.
That works.